forces working against us, worldly forces that try to destroy us, dimensional forces looking in the darkness, but I face them head on. And it may seem like they might be succeeding, and it may seem like, oh, they're bringing you down, but they can't, 'cause you're the force that brings the light. Oh, because the shadow follows me. The shadow follows me. I must make it known that I make the shadow, it doesn't make me. I've got to make it known, yes, that I make the shadow, it doesn't make me. So boom, la di la do, la de. So boom, la di la do, la de. And when everything seems so dry, you gotta keep holding on to your spot. And when everything seems so far, you gotta keep holding on and holding on, because of this shadow, the shadow follows me. The shadow follows me. So boom, la di boom, la do, la de. So boom, la di boom, la do, la de. So boom, la di boom, la do, la de. Ooh, la de, la do, la de. La de, la do, la de. La de, la do, la de. So boom, la de be do la do 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 do. Don't be down, down, 'cause everything has got its time. Don't be down, don't be.
My name is Pro Kumalo. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My name is QNM. I am going to be a facilitator for this afternoon, working very closely with the panelists that are here with me. Thank you for this morning. I believe it was awesome. I believe it was invigorating. I believe it was everything that we all wanted to be for us as women. And of course, the men in the room, to serve as allies in getting us to understand how to create an environment or a society wherein we as women can be able to feel safe whilst we pursue our dreams, our goals, our aspirations. But I don't want to waste time. I really don't want to waste time. I really want you to formally learn of the power that is here in front of us as an audience. And I think in speaking to that power, it's because we as women have really been known as or rather been articulated or expressed as as Imbokodo. And we know that was from 1956 on the 9th of August when the selfless heroes of the time went out and really marched against the unjust past laws, right? But today, as we stand, we often hear this narrative, watinta bafazi, watinta Imbokodo. And we appreciate it because it says we're powerful, we're resilient, we're strong, we're capable, we're all that and more, and we can be able to, chart the way forward, in wanting to address or redress the challenges in our society. But we should never forget that we're also vulnerable and gentle and truly gifted in wanting to be nurtured just as we are nurturing. And I think today, in all that was discussed, one thing that became clear is that in all that we are as women, in being powerful and resilient, we want to be recognized as also being creatures who need to be protected. And so how do we realize our dreams and aspirations, particularly within the fitness space, whilst endeavoring to do so in an environment where we are safe? Let me introduce the panelists. And before I do, won't you really give them a round of applause for all that they did this morning, hey? Ladies? Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I'm going to start ahead and really introduce them, and in no particular order. Let me open up my gadget here and get going, and really introducing who we have in front of us. First up, I think on my extreme right, we've got Dr. Bridget Goeieman, who has a special interest in the prevention of cervical cancer, prevention in HIV-positive women, and currently holds the position of medical manager at Thembeletu Clinic at the Helen Joseph Hospital, which specializes in HIV and TB care. Womandla in fitness. Yebo. Fantastic, welcome. Then, of course, on my left, we have Ms. Dikeledi Seleka, who is the founder of Dynamic Teams Coaching, a South African-based African active coaching and consulting company, which assists organizations and individuals to create high-performance teams. And I think today we really felt her delivering that opportunity for us to understand how we can be a high-performance team and providing leadership coaching, organizational strategy development, as well as employee engagements. Womandla in fitness. Fantastic. Then I move over to my extreme left, Ms. Mpumi Manyisi, who was this morning serving and up until now as our program director. Thank you so much for that. And is a professional media practitioner who's currently serving as a television producer and sports journalist at Soweto TV. Also serves as a feature writer and a freelance public relations practitioner. She's currently the Gauteng Sports Journalist of the Year. Thank you very much. 4 times. 4 times Journalism Award winner. And the 2022 G Sport Award print category nominee. So let's keep voting. We want that award to come home, Sana. Right, and then last but certainly not least, to my right, Dr. Thabang Molefe, who's an author, a registered ethnomedical practitioner with 19 years experience in using clinically tested herb solutions to treat lifestyle diseases at the Roots Health Center, which is currently having at least 8 branches in South Africa. And of course, she's a philanthropist who runs mobile clinics in rural areas of our country. Welcome to Dr. Molefe. Mother in fitness. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that really speaks to the depth and credibility of the panelists that we've got here. And really this morning and the better part of this afternoon, we are unpacking the topic, my body, my business. For a number of you, you had the privilege of participating in these groups. There's 4 groups. The first group led by Ms. Dikeledi and Fitmasi, really delved into GBVF in the fitness space, and we'll speak more to that. Group 2, Ms. Manyisi and Zama really talked to the capitalization of a passion called fitness, how women can be able to turn that which is their passion into something that enables them to sustain themselves from a livelihood perspective. Then group 3, Dr. Thabang Molefe and Osetu then talked to obesity and culture. And then group 4, Dr. Goeieman and Ms. Sophie spoke to issues of obesity and mental health. How did you find it? Did you guys have fun? Yes. Yeah? Yeah? No, fantastic. We're looking forward to hearing from you too. So the conversation that is going to take place, we'll see the mic really roving around. We've got Fitmasi and Setu and Zama, I think, in the aisles, and they will be really taking questions, or inputs from all of us. This is really a dialogue. And basadi ba itsewe e le bangwe ba e leng gore ba rata go tlotla. So a re seke ra tshaba. Lona banna ba le leng teng le lona re a le rotloetsa gore le tlotleng le rona. We're not exclusive like that. We believe that in the space that we live in, there's a gender called men. And, we are who we are today because there was matrimony and then we were birthed. So therefore, we need to recognize that men have got a role to play. And of course, we've got a number of challenges that we want to put out there. And of course, it's important that there are men in our midst who will be able to help us. Thank you so much. We also appreciate a sign language interpreter who's here with us to make sure that not one single person misses out on the conversations of this afternoon. Thank you, sir. You're duly welcomed as well. Thank you. Right. We move on ahead, and I think to get the conversation going, there's no better place to go than with the issues of GBVF. I think I speak for most people when I say that we're all tired, Ms. Dikeledi. We're all tired of the stats, and there's no need to reiterate them. I mean, the last we checked, every 25 seconds a woman is raped. However long I've been speaking now, that's however long we've had quite a number of sisters out there screaming, shouting, crying, and perhaps even dying in the hands of the perpetrator. It is enough. But more importantly, we then come into a space and find various conversations that take place, all in the form of fun, cute, quirky, and sometimes thinking that they are sexy when they're sleazy, Bomjita aimeko koneng, which we now is a term that we know very well is called catcalling. So let's start with you. Sexual harassment experiences that women pursuing fitness go through. Can you chat to us about what are some of the experiences that women who are pursuing fitness go through?
Okay, thank you so much for that. And thank you guys for your participation. It really was acknowledged and very appreciated. Taking from the breakaway session, that I was in, that I facilitated with my partner there, Fitmasi, and such an interactive team that we had. What really came out of that women face is exactly what you mentioned, the language. The language that we are faced with in spaces that we go. For some of us, that represents happiness. Because there are people who go to gym, for instance, because it makes them happy. They find joy in that. But also spaces that we go into to find that strength, to find the mojo in you, to keep you going. And then you are met with such language. Some of us not necessarily going to the gym, but on the streets as we walk, meeting with comments such as your body, shaming your body or such sexual comments around your body. The hooting that you can tell is not hooting in celebrating what you are doing, but hooting in actually communicating that you are a sex body and nothing more than that. So that was what came. That was what the women are faced with. What the women are really going through on daily basis with regard to making that choice to be fit.
Now, whilst the mic is sanitized and in your direction, do you have a particular experience that someone in the audience shared with you in that group that you held that really stood out for you as really jaw-breaking and, oh my goodness, it doesn't get any worse than this?
You know what? Everybody shared. It
Yeah.
was such a wonderful thing. And then maybe I'll also hand to Fitmasi to share with us. But we had ladies were really outspoken. One even, I think it was Miss Nosy, who used the term that gatekeepers do not care about you, about talent, spoke of justice really not serving. Experiences that we share. One of the experiences that really stood out was when the lady said she actually gets that discouragement from home. So that brought it home. And maybe we could ask her to share with us
Please.
her experience,
Please.
what it meant for her.
All right. She will be given a mic. Don't worry about that. All right. Fitmasi, won't you pass on the mic to our colleague? Oh. And when you get the mic, won't you please introduce yourself to us?
Dumelang bathong. Nna ke tlo bua ka Sesotho le kgone ho nkutlwa hantle hore ke reng ne.
Ya ngwaneso.
Nna ke Tsholofelo Maledi. Ke dula Orange Farm. So fitness ko nna, it started when ke leka nka nako thola mosebetsi. It took me like 10 years. Ke batla mosebetsi and ke sa thole mosebetsi. And then somebody invited me go gym. And then happiness ene ke thola mole. Kore I will scream my the misery saka ha ke fihla gymming. The music, that 1 hour for me, it meant everything. But that 1 hour go gymming, it meant everything. I will forget about my problems. Hora ke bereki ko ne ke lebala, ne. So like it became a lifestyle. I enjoy it and I love gym. Ko ke feel hore ke montle. I'm 42 years and ke feel hore ke montle.
Yes.
So so unfortunately, my spouse, motho ke mozolo always west. O ratang basadi ba kima ne. So nase asa rate tabaka ya gym. Every time I get gymming, wa kwata, wa understand. So ke mmotsa maybe kapa go rena o bona ka re ke ba monyane wena o ntso tsofala. I can understand the problem ko kae, wa understand. But eventually I bona hore ke ba miserable ha ke sa ya gymming. Ha ke clean, I can't do anything. Ko re ke ba lam. But ha ke le gymming, ke tlo shapela spring cleaning. Ko etsetse le bala ke hlatswe ke etseng. So ke ba more happy ke gym. So yeah, but now situation is much better, one supporter. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. So when we come back then to you, Ms. Dikeledi, so it's stories like those that then speak to the challenges that women go through in wanting to be physically fit. Now, I'm going to pause a little bit and take it to Dr. Goeieman and anyone else of the panelists, of course, just to reflect on that. What impact mentally does it have for women when here they are, they want to feel good, look good, and they know that this has an impact on them when they do exercise and they are restricted to do so? What are the impacts on mental health and aspects of mental health related illnesses when women are really not given the opportunity to be free, even with something that could make them happy? What would you say to that?
Thanks for this platform. I think it's awesome that we've gathered here from all walks of life and we can share our experiences and learn from each other, because I certainly learned a lot from these ladies today. I think, as she just pointed out in her example, that when she was not allowed to go to the gym, the consequences were dire, not only for herself, but the family. So when women are not allowed to be expressive, I mean, when we just look at, we talked in our group about one of the reasons why obesity is so closely related to mental illness is that women are expected to be abogoto, like we said. They don't speak up. you know. So when you enjoy fitness and you have a routine and suddenly it's chopped off and your lifeline is cut, because she said now it was my lifeline. You know, when I went to the gym, I was expressing myself, I was letting off steam, and when I came back, I was the best version of myself. When we are not allowed to be expressive and enjoy the things we love as women, our sense of self-worth is compromised.
Yeah.
Our sense of self-love is compromised because you are put down all the time. You are told that you don't matter. And what all that matters is the people around you who need you. And for the longest time, women are seen as a symbol and an example of the one who pours out. And others take and take and take from us. And I think the taking gets to a point of no return, Naniki, where you feel as a woman that I've just about given all I can give.
Absolutely.
And mentally what then happens is that you become a depressed person. But on the exterior, you smile. Because it's expected of you in certain spaces. At church, you're not expected to drag yourself into the sermon. You know, when you arrive for the church service, everyone is saying hallelujah and you're expected to be happy. You get to work. There's an expectation that you are a customer service provider. You must smile with the customer. So at all times, inside you are breaking down. However, exteriorly, you are expected to have a facade or an impression to others that you are this happy being. So I think what happens to a lot of women is that we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. And maybe later on in life, you know, when everyone else is gone, the kids are out of the nest, the husband is now retired, then we realize that, oh, but there's been this person I've forgotten about, and it's myself.
Oh, wow.
And often some women will take to overdosing, will kill themselves, will let themselves go, you know. Others will resort to promiscuous relationships because they look for affirmation in relationships with men. Others resort to drugs. And it's simply because mentally, you don't have an outlet. And in our group, we talked a lot about how as young girls and women, especially our generations, we were never taught like the youngsters now who have life skills at school. You know, we weren't taught how to cope with stress.
Absolutely.
And a lot of us don't have coping mechanisms for stress. And as a result, what we end up doing is that when I'm not feeling okay, I go into a quiet space and I open the fridge and I eat. So there's comfort eating that comes out of it. Others in our group said, mina ngiyaziphuzela. You know, when they are not feeling okay, they open the bottle and they resort to drinking. So there's comfort drinking, there's comfort eating. As a result now, the consequence is seen on the body because now the kilos are picking and piling up. And now you are told, whoa, your body. You know, people, depending on where you are, in some instances you will be praised because umakoti vele must gain weight. But in other spaces, it can become confusing because now it's frowned upon that you are putting on weight. So it becomes confusing, especially when you are a young girl trying to find yourself, you know, what is acceptable, what is not. And often in the pubertal stages or the adolescent stages, girls tend to fall into those traps of, because they are body shamed, they then go into depressive states, and they tend to either become anorexic, where they will refuse to eat because I need to look like Usman Banu, who's size 4. Others become binge eaters and they become bulimic. So they eat, binge eat, and they vomit privately in the toilet and no one sees them. Others, again, will resort to going into promiscuous relationships, and the cycle is just vicious. So at the end of it all, we're saying that it's high time as women, firstly, we recognize that there's a problem, because there is a problem. I mean, the obesity stats are screaming volumes.
Yes.
You know, the DDG spoke earlier on about how 70% of South African women are obese.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about overweight, we're talking about obese. Now, if you were to add the overweight ones to that number,
That's a huge
it's
number.
a huge number.
Absolutely.
30% of men follow thereafter and 13% of children. And you can understand that. I mean, if I as a woman have no sense of what it means to eat healthy and to look after myself, I then don't nurture a family that understands how diet works, what the consequences are of not taking care of your body. And so it becomes the family affecting the society or the community, and then there's a ripple effect. And so in our group, I was touched because there were quite a number of women that were very vocal, you know. Simple women, but who had taken charge of their lives to say, I refuse to be a statistic of mental health. I have gotten to a point of no return where I was suicidal, and I stood up and said, this far and not further. You know? And we had powerful stories.
And I want to pose you
it was
that,
really
Dr. Goeieman, just let's clarify that. Here you are sitting with a situation where they became obese because of the mental health issues that they were sitting with at home. In other words, the depression that they were living under because of what they were subjected to.
Correct, yeah.
Right? That then led them to become obese because they opted for, you know, unhealthy habits in order to almost mitigate the pain that they're going through.
True.
So there's almost then a two-pronged effect to it. There's the ones who become mentally ill because they're obese and they're being body shamed.
Yes.
And we've also got those who become obese because they're mentally ill.
Exactly, yeah. True. So
Do you have an example of somebody who spoke to that as having lived that life?
we did have an example of someone who spoke about how they got to a brink where, you know, and she was even saying, my entire family is obese and I have been big and I decided I'm not continuing on this trajectory. I'm taking my power back and I'm going to say, the narrative is that your entire, and people were even saying to her, but your family is big, you know, wanting to be thin. And she's like, no, now my story is going to be different. And Kidibone, and she's an activist, she's in our audience right in the front here. She's got a lot of hats that she wears, and she had powerful stories to say, you have the power to decide. And she made a lot of examples of how she also said she turned at the point of no return where she also nearly took her life. And it came to a point where she stood up and said, I will no longer be living a depressed life. I now choose to have a positive mindset. I choose to have a positive body image because I have a positive self-esteem. I love myself. And she has been through a lot of abusive relationships in her marriages that failed. But the stories behind how she got to this point that she's even here in the audience today were really powerful stories. And again, you know, the example of saying there are people who, because they're obese, become depressed. And she actually made examples of how self-hatred is such a toxic emotion, and how as women we tend to bring each other down because we hate ourselves. We look at in the mirror and we don't appreciate what we see. So because I have self-hatred, I then dispose or displace it on the next woman. And so I can never have a positive word about someone. Yeah. I'll talk about Naniki's outfit is fabulous, kodwa. You know, there's always a but when we talk about each other as women. So she talked strongly about how we need to pull down the walls of hatred. And she's on a personal mission to make sure she addresses these issues, you know. It was really, really impactful, the conversations we had in that group. I just wished we could have gone on or recorded it so that you guys could watch us live. But yeah, and she made powerful recommendations as well to say, we tend to also in these fora where we talk about women's issues and obesity and health, we leave out the LGBTQI plus population. Yes, and she was saying that we need to now make sure we put that on the agenda, just like we've put obesity on the agenda.
Absolutely.
We need to incorporate, those are also women, you know, especially the lesbians that we are leaving out. Because they too, surely, if they are, you can imagine you are lesbian, you're already shunned upon, you're obese, you've got mental health issues. I think that is in itself is a ticking time bomb. So it was really quite impactful, the contributions that were made in that regard.
Thank you for that. We are going to come back and talk to the recommendations because my colleague, who I won't call her out so that I don't embarrass her, said to me, I've got a lot of work. She said, you've got a lot of work, Wena. So we do want to be able to stop just coming into these forums and having these conversations, but begin to start penning them down and starting to say, so what is the action plan? And come back here next year and say, okay, fine, a year ago we had these discussions. Where are we with this? Now, I want to come back, and thank you for that, Dr. Goeieman. I want to come back to, you know, the sentiment that was expressed by our colleague here in front who said the husband was starting to, well, she asked the question to the husband, are you not appreciating me because you think I'm losing weight? And I think that speaks to issues of culture and how we tend to observe being big in relation to how we are perceived culturally. Dr. Molefe, I want to touch on that, right? Is culture to be blamed for obesity?
Okay, for us, when we met as a group, it was actually very informative to all of us.
Absolutely.
We've learned from each other, and I actually feel like knowledge, it doesn't matter how many medical books you can read, how much you think you know, you always learn. So we find that culture, yes, it does affect us, because number one, you are told if you are thin, you might be HIV positive, you know, because this is how people, they always say. And another thing, we're actually talking about the fact that in terms of culture, on how we grew up as well. At home, in the morning, you'll get magunya, acha, especially French cheese. Imagine eating all that and acha. And then during the day, you eating kota. And then at night, you eating papa and potatoes and meat.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah, but now, Dr. Bang, I almost want to pause you there and say, is that culture or is that tradition?
I think it's actually.
Do we think it's semantics? One
I
is the
think
same as
it's
the other.
very, very similar, because the thing is, we cannot say, I would say maybe it's tradition and culture, because the thing is, I'm talking about the community that we grow up in, because we all know, like maybe if there's no food or on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and then it's cheaper, it's easier. And now the girls were saying, they're finding it very difficult, because people now are unemployed. They're thinking, I don't have money to go buy vegetables. The other lady was saying, even now I actually live, Orange Farm. It's actually far for me to go buy broccoli. It's not there in my spa or in my Checkers. Akuna broccoli, you actually don't find it, you know? So it gets even harder. And then another thing was like the body shaming, that sometimes you wake up orulomata and then you start exercising. Then your neighbor says, how you are exercising but you're not losing, you know, which was like the problems that we're having as the community. And then also another thing, maybe you'll say you're running, and then from there you're getting another opposition, your neighbor or your friend says, how you're not running today, how today we are twafa. You know?
Yeah,
so you're finding so it makes it very hard, because neighbor, everybody's watching you, what you're doing, and everybody, most of the people, they live in the township, and it makes it so harder. So when you used to grow up, we're finding that maybe if compared to last time, you know, when we're finding that the ladies, we were all talking, you know what's the norm? The norm is you come home, you wash all the soapies. You're not exercising, you're not doing anything. You want soapy from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. That time is the time that you could have spent with your child. You could have read a new book. You could have skipped, because now other people, they're saying, but I don't have money to go to the gym. But we were saying, start by walking. You know, start by taking 5 kilometers every day. Everything is about consistency. Yeah, I don't want to go on and on, so that you can ask other people.
If you don't mind me coming in, because we touched on this in our conversation, where the question was, do you think culture causes obesity? And the initial sentiment was yes, you know, and everyone was jumping up and down.
Absolutely.
And I asked for examples, and some of the examples were culture in the sense that, for instance, when you are a makoti, when you have challenges, you cannot go directly to Umamazala and sit there and moan and groan about the son-in-law. So culturally, we are stifled. You can also not just address your husband and tell him about his weaknesses and his shortcomings, because you need to, you know, culturally bow down, look down, not look him in the eye. So in that
Context.
sort of context, we agreed that culture plays a role. But we didn't agree, because, like I said, initially after we unpacked it, we discovered that it is actually behaviors.
Exactly.
And not necessarily, because when the question was, which culture then? Is it the Zulu culture, the Sotho culture?
Yes.
Because the first statement that someone made in the group was that we are obese because we say Africa. La. And therefore there's an expectation that you have to be curvaceous, because we're in Africa. So do you see that it's not even about a specific culture? It
Yeah.
is about the context within we are
Or the
within which we
behavioral-
live, and
yeah.
the behaviors that are expected of us.
Absolutely.
Hence, as she was saying now, Udok, that you, because of even the socio-economic circumstances of where we live, people talked about how if in Khalili salad, where am I going to find one in the township? Because everyone is selling kotas and chisanyamas, you know. Whereas where your socio-economic context is different and you live in a suburb, you can opt to go to Kwaiwa and, you know, all these healthy bars and get a salad, or you can walk into Pick and Pay in the fruit and veggie section there and get a fresh sushi, etc. So we talked about the fact that we tend to bring it down to culture, but when you really sit down and think about it intellectually, you realize that it's not so much the culture, it is the behavior within a specific culture, but it's not a cultural thing, because if you think back to our ancestors, they were not obese people.
Absolutely.
So then when did it all start, you know? And I think it's a multifactorial issue whereby we've now urbanized ourselves as Africans, you know. We stay in towns. We don't want to walk to the shops. We want to drive our car for 5 minutes to buy a loaf of bread. We don't want to be seen to be cooking because it's Friday. We can just microwave stuff from Woolies. You know, that instant culture. So we brought it down to say we cannot just bring it down to one reason. You know, there are multifactorial reasons why we ultimately find ourselves being an obese society. And the culture is not so much the direct link to obesity, but it's certain practices that we think are cultural, but they actually are not. It's behavior patterns within a culture. Thanks.
I like that. I like that. Thank you so much to both of you for that contribution. Because if we really think about it, the practices that we've come to see over the years and how we review the absence of those practices in yesteryears with our parents, our grandparents, it shows that the modernization, urbanization have all played their part in that regard. And what we call culture now is not what it was before. And I think that's one thing that we need to reflect on, because it's as much as GBVF. I mean, when you unpack GBVF, you come to realize that culturally, men were actually brought up to look after women. You know, and along the way, the fact that there's been the change in the behavior of men, we cannot call that the culture of men who are abusive, because that was not how men were brought up. You know, when men were brought up to be protectors and nurturers, you know, and preservers of all that we are, in terms of being the ones that are beautiful creatures who are meant to be taken care of, you know, and along the way that has changed. And the question is, what is that? And that's the multifaceted approach and discussion that you talked to. Now, Dr. Thabang, coming back to you, then we look at, you know, the issue of diet, right? In this dynamism of what is now known as today's traditions, right? What in your team, or what in your experience, what are the things that you often suggest to people when you say, okay, fine, you are obese, and you want to do something about it? What would be some of the topical things that you'd say, start doing or not doing from a diet perspective, you know, to help them address this?
Okay, when we were talking about food in my group, we spoke about one thing which is important. Hore people, what we do is we eat for comfort, not for fuel. So you need to start actually taking your food and say, am I eating for fuel or am I eating for comfort? So most of the time it's comfort eating, and then you find that, first of all, people, they don't chew their food properly. Number two, you find that you're eating while you're talking. And then there's so many things, like, you know, from just from putting food into your mouth, it makes such a huge difference. You chew, after you chew, you wait maybe about an hour, then you drink your water, or you drink, like we cut out on sodas. So I would say to people, like, if you want to start losing weight, first thing you have to do is to look for food combination, which is what I was speaking about, you know. And I was like, you see it in funerals, because and then we can see each other. Rice, papa, and then mashed potato, or semp and mashed potato. Even when you're at home, you take semp and you put mashed potato, you know. And then gravy, and the gravy, I think, let's unpack it. It's the oil, then it's the onion, it's the green pepper, and then it's the sugar, and then it's the tomato, and then other people, they put chilies, and then they put it there. And then they take their meat and they fry it, and they put sauces, they put spices, they eat it. There's just no way you're gonna survive, guys. There is just no way. Because which is another thing that we're speaking with the ladies. We're like, okay, there's other ladies, you know, as much as we're all talking about fitness, but everything happens also boils down to what you eat. Because we can say you wake up in the morning and we know the marathon, we do all these things, but what are you putting in your body? Which is very, very important. So the first thing that you need to do if you want to lose weight, check with in terms of don't eat too much starch. And Rona, as our community, as the black community, we love starch. Rejabroto saying, Papa, other people, they wake up with pap. Makunya lidi gota tsona our staple meat. You know, and then if you can even unpack gota, it's just that white bread is either is potatoes, which is mesh, babang, like chips, and then is what is the acha, is the mince, and then it's actually also too big, and then you drink a Coke or Fanta or whatever, you know. That's like mutacho jile, and now you're eating for comfort or which is not good.
Yeah.
So you know another thing, and that you also have to know, ladies, that also milk. I don't know if you all know milk is meant for cows and chickens and cats, not for us. Rona, as human, you're not supposed to be drinking milk.
Absolutely.
Especially cow's milk is dangerous. That's the reason why you're finding young people the arthritis. Arthritis people from 16, 17, they've got arthritis problem, bone. It's all this milk that you guys are drinking. And in milk, it also goes even further. From milk, you get cheese. From milk, you get yogurt. And then from Museng, cereal, then they put in yogurts, you know. So first thing that you need to do that you can take away from me today is like you cut off the milk when you get home. If you have milk, and especially cow's milk, forget it.
Sure.
Yes, and meat. South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to come back to I know you are burning to come in, Dr. Goeieman. Mpumi, what is the role of media in all of this? How is media exacerbating the issue of unhealthy eating? I mean, let's talk about it. Are they helping us?
They're laughing because they were also part of my group. The session was so heated and it was eye-opening in a sense that for me, Native class, they were teaching me about my own industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just learning interesting things about the media industry and how we've been so negative in terms of fitness and just in terms of supporting, fitness influencers and people who are trying to get into the space as well. So I think we need to change our ways in the media space. One, in terms of the ads that are always sexualizing women, and in terms of advertising, one of the ladies, and I would ask her to also emphasize on this point, spoke about how, in terms of advertising, that there's an ad, Ackerman's ad. With Ackerman's ad, they know how to represent women of all shapes. You know what I mean? And also the fact that we shouldn't say healthy people are only skinny people.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do in the media all the time. We are always putting out ladies who are skinny to say, if you are healthy, then you have to look like this. Mm-hmm. You can be a fully figured woman who is eating well, who is active, and who is healthy. So, we need to change the narrative in terms of how we push fitness, either on traditional media, which is television and radio, and even on social media as well. And I'd just like for you to add on that in terms of what we were speaking about.
Oh, hi. We actually spoke about a lot in our room, and it was very insightful. But a bulk of it was kind of the idea of representation in media, right? And how do people access their bodies, celebrate their bodies. But also a bulk of our conversation was around the process, right? A lot of what we see in social media, a lot of what we see in the media is end result. So a lot of the time that we spent in our room was to say, how do we incentivize people to share their journey? How do we incentivize people to celebrate movement, right? We're talking about the idea of choose to be active. It's not about fitness. It's not about losing weight. It's about movement, right? It's about being active. It's about celebrating your body. It's about introspection. So in our room, I think we spoke a lot about how do we put in the media and celebrate the process of becoming your best self.
Oh, wow.
And how that can be experienced in the active and in the fitness and in our businesses, and how do we commit to doing that for ourselves and for other people in our community. So we spent a lot of time workshopping that idea of introspection. Sure, the media gives us a lot of garbage, right? But how do we hold ourselves accountable for what we take in of that, right? And we also spend a lot of time talking about how to filter what you take in order to protect your health, in order to protect your commitment to being active and being fit and being healthy.
I just want to pause there. I love the process part of it. And I know that our I Choose to Be Active content team is listening, because I think that's really, really something else that we've started it, but I don't think we've delved very deep in terms of actually saying, tell us about your journey. Often at times, and Dr. Goeieman and Dr. Molefe have been in previous webinars where we invite someone to come and tell us about their journey, what they went through. But you are right in saying that if media is not sharing that with us, we then need to start creating, a content space for actually wanting to promote that progress. That's powerful. Thank you very much. In fact, I do know that Setush is in the room here. There's been that idea that we're kicking off the beginning of September, which is speaking to what we call the virtual gym champion, which is somebody that continues to share with us how monthly they are progressing, in terms of their health and wellness goals. So we very much taking that. I applaud. I think that's powerful. I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. And can I just come in there a little bit?
And Dr. Goeieman then will come in. Sorry, Doctor.
In emphasizing on what he said, and what I'm liking here is that it shows how aligned we are in our thinking and in curating a way forward. Because if you speak of culture, you speak of mindset, mental health, and you speak of what is my role, you speak of GBV, you find all those elements in gender-based violence also. You find that in the sexual harassment, how we deal with sexual harassment. It hugely talks to culture. And that was also what came out of, from our breakaway session, that the biggest thing that we then came out with and that we thought could help us map the way forward in changing the narrative, in also taking ownership of the future and the change that we want to see, was number one, to hold up the mirror. Be reflective. And I think if we are really to take this conversation forward and curate those processes, we've got to be honest with ourselves in terms of what led us here. How do we find ourselves where we are right now, whether we're talking obesity or we're talking sexual harassment, in terms of the experiences that we are finding? But also in so doing, what is my role in seeing the change that I want to see? What's my responsibility in it? And that was what came out in our session, where actually as a group, we came out with rules to say, so what should be rules that uphold what we stand for, what we want to be seen as, in whatever space that I find myself, whether I'm walking on the streets, whether I'm jogging in the campus at school, because we had students that joined us also, whether I am in the gym. How do I want to be addressed and perceived? How do I want that space to treat me? How do I treat the case of security, safetyness? Because women came out and said, in my area, I can't jog. because it's not safe, you know. So what do we do in that sense? Because the essence was, yes, government can do something. Yes, everybody else can do something, but I also have a role. I also have a role. Can I identify my role? Thank you. Can I identify what role can I play in effecting that change that I am looking for? And one of those things that came out of the rules was, we've got to stand up for ourselves. Because unless we teach people how to treat us, they will continue treating us the way they're treating us. Because we're not voicing it out, they don't know that it lands wrong. One of the ladies shared that she posted herself wearing a nice top, revealing top, on one of her statuses on social media. A gym instructor commented and said, "Why don't you dress like that when you come to the gym? I wish I could hold that body."
Yeah.
You know, so those are the examples, real life experiences that we go through. But then the question was, how do we stop that behavior? How do we stop that way of thinking and way of doing things? If I don't answer back as Dikeledi and say, I do not appreciate the language, I do not appreciate you talking to me in this manner, guess what? He will continue. Because also I am not owning my part. So that was one of the things that came out, to say, stand up for yourself. Believe in yourself. So if you believe that you are beautiful, if you believe that you go to exercise or whatever it is that you are doing because it serves you and it does not serve the world, you carry on. And that talks to your mindset. Where are you in terms of your mindset? Be positive and be an example.
Now, Ms. Dikeledi, I heard you say that you then have to respond to that person and say, I don't like it. Is that solving the problem? Because is that not still an issue of he or she perceives your response as you telling them that you don't like it, not necessarily that it is wrong the way he or she is speaking to women in general? Because if we're going to take accountability, it also then means that we need to start educating those who come into our space and speak in a particular way, so that they not just don't only do it to me, but they don't do it to Dr. Goeieman.
You know what's the flip side to that?
Yes.
Women, there are those of us who actually celebrate those statements.
Yes, that's true. We do know that. But as you've said, that we started with the narrative, right?
Yes.
And we want to change the narrative. And you are asking us to hold ourselves, or your group asked us to hold ourselves accountable. In holding ourselves accountable, because we're nearing now to where we're starting to unpack the recommendations, is to actually then begin to say that you have a role that when you are correcting the next person, to speak as if you are representing other women and men who in the past have been robbed by this particular behavior, so that they know that it's actually wrong.
You can't
not
continue.
just to me, but they can't continue.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
And it's also in your response, the notion in this was that keeping quiet is allowing it to continue.
to perpetrate.
If you just ignore it and keep quiet.
Okay.
So, address it.
Absolutely.
Address it. Yes.
Absolutely. Let's come back to you, Dr. Goeieman. You had a point to make.
I'm so fired up. I don't even know where to start. But just to come back to what Dikeledi was saying now, about, we also discussed it in our group that you teach people how you ought to be treated.
Yeah.
And that's taking back your power to say, I'm not happy with that comment, Puti, and you cannot talk to women like that, So when you are retaliating or actually responding to that, it should not just be about me, but as you rightfully say, about every other woman that he might want to make such remarks to that, might not appreciate it. But as you rightfully say, some ladies are charmed by it, and it's different strokes for different folks. So I think we shouldn't also have sort of a one-size-fits-all approach to this. But we take it and we play each case as it presents itself. But the bottom line of what she's saying is that it's high time women asserted their positions.
Absolutely.
And again, back to our cultures, we are taught to be quiet and to stand back and not express how we feel. And one of the people in our group actually said Mina, I don't have a chronic disease because I speak my mind. If I'm not happy, you will know I'm not happy. You know, and that was powerful to say, and rightfully so. You know, and there were a lot of others like Kidiboni, for instance, who said, take back your power. If there's nothing else I learned today, was that I needed to take back my power. And coming again back to what Udok said earlier on about diet, you know, a very quiet individual in our group, actually, when we were talking about food groups and, you know, options, she actually put up her hand and said, but do you actually stop to think that people who dish up like that at funerals, where they dish up stampatini, the works, maybe there's poverty involved, you know? And socio-economic backgrounds of people sometimes dictate their choices. And we were saying we're not sort of ignoring the fact that a lot of people come from poor backgrounds and cannot afford the food groups that Udok was referring to. So we tend to default towards the starch eating. But what we were saying in the group is that we're not going to go back and now suddenly have a balanced diet. But we need to be aware and conscious to say, the next time I want to buy slab chips, maybe I can opt for a bunch of spinach instead, you know? So we were all agreeing that there are small choices that we make. And I think why we are here is about how we make choices.
Absolutely.
And we need to take back the power of how we make choices and what influences how we make choices.
Absolutely.
The other thing I want to talk about is this notion that thinness equals healthy. And in our group, I can't see Connie now, but she came guns blazing, and she's an activist of note and wanted to register her presence to say, I might look big, guys, but can I tell you, Guti, I'm probably healthier than all of you here, you know? And she was just reminding us that we have this mythical mindset to say thin people are healthy people, and if I'm a little bit chubby, hey, I need to do something, you know? And ironically, in some cultures, I mean, if you go to Nigeria and you are skinny, people frown on you and say, oh, that one's got AIDS, you know? So it also depends on where you find yourself. But I think what she was trying to say is, you are the author of your own narrative, guys. Don't let people label you and then you box yourself in what labels you were given, because it's very confusing out there, I can tell you. I was telling them an example of myself where I see people 2 minutes apart. The one thinks I'm thinner, the other one thinks I've gained weight. And I mean, the confusion, because if you don't know yourself, there's my weight hasn't changed. So the two people I just bumped into who haven't seen me in 5 years, the one reckons I've lost weight, the other one reckons I've gained weight. Am I now going to go into a hole of depression because, Naniki thinks I've gained weight? Now when you look in the mirror that Usis Dikeledi talked about, what are you saying? What is your self-affirmation? And self-affirmations are important, because if you don't affirm yourself, you will look for people and things to affirm you. And when they don't respond, your depression goes through the roof. And all the other activities that then follow, the list is endless, colleagues. So let's take back our power. Thanks.
Okay. So we've spoken about power. I don't know, do you want to come in?
You know, in our group, we were talking about inner peace. And then, you know how you find inner peace? By being grateful for what you have, and just always pat yourself in the back and say, I've done well today.
Wow.
And then before you leave your house, or before you leave to a meeting or to a school, just tell yourself, today is going to be my day. There's nobody who's going to come. You know how it is sometimes. I was speaking to the lady, so you get to work, and then sometimes don't bring your problems to work. You know, it's working too. You start having a problem maybe with your mom or with your spouse, you come to work and you bring that bad energy into other people. And then you start, even if they ask you a small thing, have you seen the pencil? Do I look like a pencil? Or did you leave it here? You know? So, you know, as soon as when are you telling yourself, before you leave, even if you can have a bad day or whatever, but as soon as you start telling yourself, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to wash, and you start telling yourself when you wake up, today is the good day, I'm going to do a good day, God is with me, you know, just shine my way and go before me. And then most importantly, be grateful with what you have and gratitude and inner peace, you know, because I always tell people, because we were speaking that one of the ladies was saying, there's high blood pressure, sometimes we told blood pressure, right? And then if I get mad, then my BP goes up. But you see, that means gore, you get mad because people did this to you. But if you have inner peace, even if motho ka fitla a o raka, tlo go, yo wa hlanya motho today, you won't say, yo o nkentse ke be stressed, I need pills, I need that. So, you know, because I always speak about the fact that as much I'm more about eating, and then other people are more about fitness, and then, but all those things, they go together. It's emotionally, it's physically, and then it's also in terms of what you eat, you know? So all those things, just don't rule out anything. Alright, as long as ki jima, and then ki ja gantle, and then I'm fine. But your emotion is as important. It's actually more important than even other things, because the thing is, then you'll have that thing, your self-worth. You look at yourself, I actually look good.
Yes.
You don't have to go and say, I have to do my hair first before I go and sing mangma. Sometimes in self-confidence, because we were even talking about social media. If now you feel social media is really affecting you, get out of social media. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, because that means when your mind is not strong enough. Because it went back to other people saying, but sometimes are wicked. That's the reason why sometimes, you know, other people, they're just not meant for Facebook material. They're not Facebook material. They're not Instagram material. Get out of it. Stop stressing yourself.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay. I do want us to get to the stage. Okay. I do want us, when I come back again, I do want us now to start almost like give us at least 3 to 5 from each of your group of the resolutions. We've discussed the challenges, we've discussed some of the incidents, and I think we're really getting a sense of that. But now come tell us, what were the resolutions? What were the pledge? What was the pledge that in your group you agreed to do? And I know you may have to find yourself sounding like you're reiterating. That's fine, because we've spoken about take the power, we've spoken about, you know, look in the mirror, you know, trust the process. That's fine, but let's be able to just bring it back again, so that for those of us who are also just becoming our scribes in the room can be able to package that quite powerfully. The intention here for all who are in the room is to also develop this into some kind of an ebook that we can be able to reflect on and say, in this group, this was discussed, these were the challenges that were outlined. I mean, the panelists are going to create a report from each of their groups alongside their co-partners. And then from there to be able to say, in the discussions that ensued, the challenges were these were the incidents that were highlighted, and these are the solutions that are going to move us forward. But in moving us forward, what is that pledge? But before we get onto that, and I'm gonna do a round and come, starting off with you, Dr. Goeieman, I want to come to Mpumi, because we haven't looked at the aspect of the incredible women, and quite a number of them here in the room. Fitmas is here, Zama is here, Sotu's here, Sophie's here, who, I mean, if you are following some of them, you will see that they've been able to actually make money out of being fit. And when we look at the fact that, you know, we had our sister here was telling us that for 10 years she was looking for a job and she couldn't find it. Out of her loving being fit, if someone had been able to tell her that, right, you are fit and you do it regularly, you know, did you know that you could become a lucrative, you know, partner or endorsement opportunity by an organization out there? The question is, are many of you aware that right now brands are looking for influencers? Brands are looking for fitness coaches. Brands are looking for fitness instructors. But you need to start packaging your brand in a way that gets them to be attracted to you. And that was at the heart of the conversation with Mpumi's team. Can you unpack that? What came out of those discussions? Monetization of fitness passion.
Yeah, also I just want to add on what Doc was saying, because it's exactly what we were talking about with session here too. First of all, the fact that your fitness journey should be your personal thing. You have the responsibility to sort of trace your progress, and don't compare yourself to a Naniki or to a Dikeledi, because your journey is different from hers. You know, body shapes, we are not the same. So what I need is not what she needs. So if you're gonna follow social media and follow people that are not in the same path as yours, then it doesn't help you much.
Okay.
So what came out in our session is the fact that use media positively, follow the programs that speak to what you need, and follow social media influencers that speak to your journey. Because abalingani angithi, the other one does this, The other one does fitness for pregnant women. If you are pregnant, focus on that.
Yeah.
The other one for fully figured women.
Absolutely.
If you are fully figured, focus on that. So try to consume what speaks to what you want to achieve.
And
so
the journey that you want to go to.
make it personal. Make it
Absolutely.
way too personal.
Now, whilst
and
you're there,
awesome.
were you able to identify various paths that one could follow? Fitmasi, do you want to come in on this one? Were there any discussions in the room that spoke to what women can do in order to become fitness influencers? Can you share that with us?
Honestly, it was just about using social media positively, and you don't have to start big. From where you stay, that's where you need to start. And there's a fact that also came out about maybe these dialogues should also shift to the townships, so that we're able to influence people in the township to say the issues around fitness, health, and wellness. It's not stuff that's far-fetched. It's stuff that affects everybody. And to also teach people the fact that it's not for white people, and you can walk around your neighborhood. It shouldn't be a taboo. We should normalize that. And how do we normalize that? We take these conversations to the townships.
Wow, fantastic. I love that. Fitmasi, would you like to contribute to that? Can you share with us in the room how you turned your passion for fitness into a lucrative business? Do you have the mic?
Yes, but I can answer that question, but I think you're looking for Zama.
No. I am going to come to Zama. I wanted to start with you first.
Okay, no
Yes.
problem.
I'm well aware of Zama. Yeah.
Okay, just to add on what Sis Mpumi has said. So basically, it's for some of us, it starts as a hobby. And then you realize along the way that, in fact, there's so much that you can achieve and there's so much that you can get out of fitness. So, for example, myself, it was just a hobby. People that were in my group, they know. I did share with them in terms of I went to gym or I started training because of depression in the environment that I was working in. So I wanted something to distract myself from. And from there, I grew, and obviously I started monetizing my my social media, because I shared my stories, and when I was sharing my fitness journey, it was all about inspiring other people, not only women, but even men. And then it turned out that there were some brands that were actually looking, and they reached out to me in terms of, can you help us talk about this? And currently now I'm working with different brands, and I'm currently on a campaign as well where we're talking about mental health. So basically it starts very small, and one thing that is important is you need to understand your audience. Facebook is different, Twitter is different, Instagram is different, and they don't grow the same. You find that you've got more followers on the other side, you've got more followers on the other side. But what is important is the message that you are sending to each platform. Okay. You need to be very mindful of that as well. Yeah. But the minute you start and you've got your plan, you've got your goal and your targets and everything just flows. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, for some of you, these are some of the I Choose to Be Active fitness influencers that we also became attracted to because of their growth. Zama now became, quite impactful to her audience, that she also drew the attention of international brands. Zama, can you share that experience with those in the room who are saying, I'm fit, I'm passionate about this space, I really want to attract brands? How did it get there for you?
Like Masi said, it all starts with, being a hobby. So you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So you have to love what you do. And again, when you start attracting your audience, you need to be relatable to your audience that you attract. Your followers must be able to look at you and relate to what you do, relate to your situation, be able to do what you do. So for me, I think the way I was able to reach the international audience is because my post would go viral on Instagram. I don't know, I think it's because I teach more, because the most important thing, as much as you can be a fitness influencer and have the physique, people must also learn from you. So you need to learn. So you need to read, even if you're not going to be a certified personal trainer, but you need to get on the internet and know what you preach on Instagram. So for me, I teach a lot. So I think because of that, I don't know, people shared and then it got to the international audience. So now I have the international audience. I have international clients, people that want me to train them. And that has led me to want to pursue fitness, personal training.
Yeah.
So now I'm close to being a certified personal trainer. And that was not in my books. It just came with being a social media influencer. It's not something that I thought I would pursue in life, but I think the universe then said, girl, this is you now.
Yeah.
You know, this is what you should do now.
Wow.
So it really starts there. And because I love fitness so much, it doesn't feel like hard work for me. It really feels like I'm having fun because I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I was going to do anyway. The only difference now is that I'm sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I hope that my sister there, you are listening, because I get a sense that you could be our next influencer there at I Choose to Be Active. So, follow them and engage them, and follow us as a campaign as well, because we're always on the lookout for, young influencers who are in the market. And it's no longer just about the numbers. I think people get very worried about becoming influencers thinking, well, I've got low numbers. It's also about engagement. We've got very, very young influencers at the moment, and some of them are not in the room. They're probably watching from various parts of the country. And out of that, we wanted to showcase that the commitment that they are having to their brand and their intentions of being physically fit is what actually drew us to be interested in them. But now we're going to get to the stages where we're about to wrap up. So I do want us to talk to the recommendations. I do want us to talk to the resolutions, the solutions. And in those solutions, I do want to hear what is that pledge that the group agreed on, because it is that pledge that we're going to amplify on our social media platforms. It is that pledge that we're going to take away as a content marketing team with Sizwe and Jack, and be able to then say, how do we enable our conversations on that Choose to Be Active platform to speak to the process that our colleagues spoke to here in front, as opposed to, the outcome, and really begin to create the kind of environment that Mpumi was talking to, where even if media is still body shaming and speaking negatively, we are taking accountability and we are doing something different and we are changing the narrative. So Dr. Goeieman, I'm going to start with you. What were the solutions that your group agreed to go for?
So in our group, the first and most prominent statement that came out was as a resolution: where you are from does not define who you are. So do not let the narratives of others label you and define your mindset. Mental health can cause obesity, but it is not the only causative issue, and therefore we need to be honest and practical about how we can change our mental situations so that we improve our mindsets and take back our power. 3, we need to create spaces that are safe for ourselves and especially for our children, where they can talk openly and honestly about how they feel and not suppress themselves. Because as women, because we have been taught to be suppressive, we find ourselves mentally unwell, depressed, eating and drinking our way to comfort. So, and fourthly, we said the hatred, self-hatred needs to stop. We need to reach out to our LGBTQI plus population, especially lesbian women. When next we meet in the name of women, if lesbians are not represented, then that gathering is actually flawed and it is not fully representative of all women in society in South Africa. Thank you.
So before you move on, Dr. Goeieman, I want to hear that. What did you pledge?
To be honest, we actually didn't get to make a pledge, but I think collectively as a group, we pledged that when we leave here, we each are taking back home with us. One thing that we've learned from this gathering, and that one thing was, we choose not only to be active, but we choose to be active citizens who are making an impact, no matter how small, in the societies that we live, work, and play in. Thanks.
Wow, powerful. Powerful. We choose to be active citizens. I love that. I love that. I'm going to come to you, Ms. Mpumi. Tell us your solutions, your resolutions, and of course, were there any pledges, or was there a pledge that was agreed upon in your group?
Also, collectively, we had pledged on the fact that we need to love ourselves more, and the fact that you need to understand that you, the business, you know, if you take care of yourself, your body will end up making money for you. You know what I mean? And being consistent as well in the content that you put out on social media or just locally. And I think most of the guys also pledged to be active in their communities as well. And there's a moment where I stepped out. I think there's some of the things I've also missed, and I would like Uzama to emphasize on those. But personally, I had pledged as someone who's in the media space to make sure that we push more content in relations to fitness, health and wellness, and also make it fashionable, so that it can entice just a mere someone who is not into the space and who's not interested in those things. So just to build some kind of appetite. And those who have businesses that have to do with fitness, also I pledge to give them platform to also push their businesses as well. Can Uzama please elaborate on that?
Thank you for that. Bring Zama in, and I am edified, Dr. Goeieman. I do think we need to bring Sophie in as well from your side. Yes, do you want to add, Zama?
Yes, from what Mpumi said, most of the people from our group had pledged to take their fitness and health seriously. So for them, they're going to take their fitness journeys more seriously. And others had pledged to support individuals around them who are embarking in making fitness their businesses. I think, yeah, that's it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Goeieman, not necessarily to you, but to your partner. Sophie, are you in the room? Do you want to add to what Dr. Goeieman had added? Is she in the room? Okay, all right, fantastic. So let's move. All right, then I want to come to you, Miss Dr. Thabang, the role of culture in obesity, and then, of course, it will be amplified by Ms. Setulicious. What were the solutions, resolutions, and was there any pledge?
I will start with the pleasures. We spoke about that we must actually make sure that we have to unlearn the bad habits. You know, we have to start eating clean in our own homes, because we thought sometimes, you know, when you're at home, because there's a mother, the father, the children, we have to start making sure as a family we start making clean, and we have to start. It starts with us. Then after that, we're like, okay, something that I have learned, as much as I always tell people what to eat and all that, is that like we were talking about also teaching our kids how to eat well, which is something that we all are going to start doing, you know, because other people, they were like, you know, they lead their kids. We always give our kids money for scarfteen or everything, or if you are lazy to make lunchbox, we just give them money. So the child needs to be responsible of what they eat. You train them, you teach them from a young age what to eat, and then you'll see they'll start telling the other kids, oh, you know, I had a salad, I had this, you know, things like that. It's very, very important. And we also pledge to be consistent. You know, weight loss, like everybody was saying, it's actually a journey. It's not something that you tell yourself, I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. If I'm not getting any results, I'm leaving it, you know. And it's also a lifestyle. Like, you know, doctor was speaking now, one of the ladies was saying, I'm more healthier than all of you. That means that person actually chose the lifestyle. So don't choose a body type or you want to look like somebody else. Choose a lifestyle that's healthy. Tell yourself when you're going to drink more water. You're going to make sure you're not going to make excuses and say, hi, when it's winter now, I eat everything. it's actually it's not taking accountability. So we also pledged we're gonna take accountability for our food and stop making excuses, because we make so many excuses for ourselves. We say, no, it's because last week I was depressed, or I was feeling down, or I was on my periods. You train your body. And we also spoke about training your body to do things, and we even made examples. Like sometimes you can even train your body, because you tell your body, you eat from this time to this time, and this is what you do. Because that's the reason why some other people, they'll say, I only eat once a day, and then now you start eating other meals, and then you say, I'm starting to get bloated and all this. So you need to start training your body to take care of you as well. And then we also pledged, what else did we pledge? Let me see. About taking baby steps. Everything, we just have to take baby steps. Because one of the ladies that we were speaking to, she was saying that, she started running when she wanted, and she saw this other run. I don't know if you want to share your story. She was saying, she started running, and then she started having problem with her knees. And we sometimes, and then from there, after that, you start giving up, or maybe you take more breaks or whatever. Or maybe after a woman just had a baby, we know the lady just had a baby. And then now we're saying, and then from there, you let yourself go. Or you give up too quick, or you don't do what you're supposed to do, because we know when it's time for nurturing the baby, I guess we need to eat certain food for the breast to get milk. And then after you do that, you get rid of all that food and say, okay, now it's time for me, And then we also talked about self-love. It's very important to love yourself and to keep yourself positive, and to make sure forward you go and backward never, and close your ears to all the negativity. And we also spoke about closing down the social media. I don't know if Sther wants to say something, since she's my right hand woman.
Okay. Sther, all the way from Cape Town, by the way, who joined us all the way from Cape Town. Sther, do you want to share the solutions, the resolutions?
Okay. I think Dr. Thabang has already said quite a lot, but I think one that she hasn't touched on was the regular checkups, because we did touch on how you look, and if you eat healthy and you exercise, you feel like you are healthy, but you don't really know. So you need to actually go to the doctors to find out if you are healthy. Regularly check up, and just yearly checkups to actually make sure that you are healthy. And I think touching on social media, we also spoke about how most social media influencers, they sell unrealistic results. And if you are not mentally prepared for that, shut off your social media. Be realistic with yourself. Understand that it is a marathon, not a sprint. One foot at a time that is needed. And you can't just go without running your entire life and start running 10 kilometers. Start with just walking. Start with doing the little things in life, because people rush things because they want to see themselves losing 5 kgs in a month. But no, it's all about being come from a place of love, not from a place of hate.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Right. We then move on to Ms. Dikeledi, and you were with Fitmasi. If you can tell us the solutions and the pledge, if there was any.
Oh, yes. So what we came to was, like the saying goes, mindset precedes all change. And from the discussions, it came out that it all starts and ends with your mindset. So you've got to work on your mindset. Mindset change will help you reach the results that you're looking for. And what came out of that really was also to highlight the fact that fitness is not gym. And that takes away excuses. And by saying fitness is not gym, I am saying if you can't go to gym, it doesn't mean you cannot be fit. You find other ways. That was encouraging to say, be creative. Look for solutions. Work with what is within your reach. If you can't go to gym, walk around. Other excuses that came out were, I don't have clothes to go to gym. I don't have brands, things like that. I can't afford broccoli. Work with what you have. We have spinach. Make a choice. It all starts with you. And those were one of the solutions, that it's your mindset change. It's choosing you. It's choosing your solutions. It's choosing what serves you. It's choosing to be active.
Oh, wow.
It's choosing to be active. It's choosing to be here. And in so doing, you therefore would have to be intentional in your actions. So you've got to be actively involved in making sure that you arrive at those choices that you made. So you've got to be intentional. Fitmasi shared an example that she is so intentional with her fitness that whenever she travels, it doesn't matter where she goes, she packs her pair of tekkies. That's intention to achieving what you want to achieve. So how are you intentional in seeing that improvement? So those were one of the solutions. And also realizing that fitness does not only talk to your body shape or talk to being slim or fit as we tend to associate it with. Fitness is quite a broad word that has broad meaning. It also talks to your mindset that contributes to really your whole life, all sectors of your life and all spheres of your life.
Absolutely.
Coming to the pledges.
Yes.
Because we understand that it starts with me, because we understand that I had to choose me, we individually pledged in our group. So we had pledges that each and every person made a pledge.
Oh, wow.
I can't list all of them because of time, but one of the things that came out was I choose to be actively educating the community, my society, my family, of how I want to be treated. One of the things that came out was I choose to make sure that women are understood, women are heard, women are seen in the platforms that I find myself, where I work, whether networking or all that. I choose to be supportive. I choose to be a good listener. I choose to be generational in what I do. So be an exemplary in what I do. So what footsteps am I leaving behind? So one of the resolutions also that came out was to say, what are the things that can be done to support us and to support, to really curb sexual harassment in whatever spaces that we find ourselves? And one of the things that came out was obviously our justice system. Is it doing enough? Is it supporting us? Is it standing for us? Justice system talks to policies. And the solution that came out of that was policies needs to reflect what is on our streets. Policies needs to talk to our everyday experience, because currently they seem to be so out of touch with the reality on the ground. So we've got to influence policies in such a way that it talks to us, it talks to what we are facing. Justice needs to listen to us and hear what we are crying about. So that was what came out of our session.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Fitmasi, I do trust that you were covered in that regard, or would you like to amplify?
I was covered in a lot of things, but one of the other things that I think it was very powerful that came out is that we need more facilities, training facilities. If it means they should be for women, then they should be for women. Like building new gyms that obviously will cater for women. And we also talked about having conversations with men, because we feel like maybe we don't really engage with men about the comments and the catcalling that they do. They are not really aware of the impact these things they say to us, be it we're at the gym, be it we are running outside. So today we are sitting here, we are having a Womandla in fitness. We've got less men. They are focusing on cameras, right? That's what they're doing right now. This whole conversation is about us. Maybe they're going to take something, maybe they're not going to, but reality is we need to have more of this conversation where we're going to involve men. We're going to have a conversation with them so that they understand whatever that they do, that it has an impact on us. Because one of the, very lucky we had guys in our group, and one of them said that sometimes you send a comment and you don't know that it will have so much impact on a person. So basically, we need to also educate the young man, we need to educate our husbands, our boyfriends, and we need to talk to them and have this conversation with them about the sexual harassment that we experience at the gym or in the environment as a whole. Then one of the other things that I think it was very powerful was that we need to also be mindful of, we need to be the change in the society. Because we live in a society where people will always talk whether you do good or you do bad. You try to lose weight, they say you are sick. You try to gain weight, they say you are too fat. Now you don't know where you belong. So we also need to be positive and try to be better. Someone even made a pledge that I think it was very important. She said, we need to practice kindness.
Oh, wow.
In whatever that we say to people. And obviously, I thought of the comments that I always see on social media, and a person would never know how harmful and how evil whatever that they say to other people. So for me, I think we need to focus on living in a better or making a better society. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so, so much to the panelists and their anchors, and to everyone that participated in the different groups that we were able to have these discussions. I think that deserves an applaud. I mean, there's so much that we're getting out of here. There's so much that we're getting out of here as a department and its campaign, and there's so much that we're going to be spending. Hint, hint, December time. No leave. Kidding. Not kidding. Because we love these sessions. We absolutely love these sessions, and I'll tell you why, particularly the marketing team. We love these sessions because they give us so many insights, because the campaign is a departmental campaign, but it is actually the campaign of the community, and it needs to reflect the nuances of what the community is asking of us. And so we've learned so much out of today that we need to go away and reflect on that, so that when we kickstart again in 2023 and we're saying we're kickstarting our work, not that we would be starting then, but there's such progression to what we are doing. I mean, the next webinar will obviously see us bringing some of the changes that you speak of, the inclusion of the LGBTQ T+I community. Apologies if I may have worded it incorrectly. And of course, the inclusion of, more men in our conversation. So when we really, really reflect on that, we need to make sure that when you are empowering us with information, we don't just walk away, but we begin to reflect changes in our structures and how we do things. So thank you so much for that. I really want to say thank you to the panelists again, and please, can you help me say thank you to them, with a very, very powerful applause. Yeah. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I love the fact that Ms. Dikeledi Seleka has been with us as a community for at least 2 months, and she's already whispering in my ear, don't forget to register. This is what happens. We come on board and we become owners of the campaign. So just to reiterate again, the name of the campaign is I Choose to Be Active. It's available on social media platforms as it is written, the letter I, the word choose, CHOOSE, the number 2, the letter B, the word active, ACTIVE. You've got no reason to not be following us. We're positive. We are embracing all that there is about speaking kindly to one another. In fact, that is one of our ethos. We often speak about the fact that we want to be kind to one another. We want to remind each other of how accountable we can be. But having said that, you might say, I really don't have the time to be on social media platforms. Well, then why don't you join the community? You just simply go onto the bio of our link, or rather you go to the link on our bio, and you'll be able to find all the details. Just register and become a community member, because every once in a while, and I think practically every week, we send out SMSs and we speak to you and say, how are you doing? Do you know that there's virtual gym classes? When was the last time you attended? So you've got a community that's holding you accountable. And that's why we are able to keep fit and keep consistent, as the doctors were speaking to, because we've got someone that keeps reminding us of what we need to do. Many of you are not aware, we've got virtual gym classes. So in other words, for you who say, I don't have access to a gym, I can't afford a gym, I can't afford taxi fare, I don't have somebody to look after the child when I have to go to the gym, just simply push a friji ill, or push a better ill, o logo in mo Zoom, mo Facebook, mo Instagram. Every Monday to Friday, we've got classes. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, it's 6 to 7 in the morning. And then, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's 4:30 to 5:30. If you miss it, it certainly sits on the Instagram account, and you can be able to reflect on it again and just simply click on it, open it, and get to exercise. So you have no excuse whatsoever. We have sessions like these. We've had past webinars, and in fact, past webinars have featured respectively Dr. Goeieman and Dr. Thabang Molefe, where they've been able to talk about these topics. So go on to our bio, you'll actually get to see these webinars where they spend an hour with us just talking to them about these topics. We really want to make sure that the community gets access to this content. We want the community to understand that government is doing its bit to empower. Then more importantly, our fitness influencers, they're so selfless. You want to be a fitness influencer? Follow them, ask them, DM them. As long as you're polite and kind and disciplined, they will respond to you, and they'll be able to help you to understand how you can also monetize the opportunity of your passion. This has been an absolute pleasure to be of service to you, and I really, really look forward to seeing many of you join us as we journey on this health and wellness journey. Good afternoon. Thank you.